Circle going around. I have no idea. There we go. Now it's live. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good whatever time of day it is for you, wherever you are. Good lunchtime if you're on the U.S. East Coast. Good evening if you're east of the Atlantic. Good morning if you're everyone west of that. Welcome to the second Skeptoid live stream for premium members. We asked for questions in advance this time, so things were scrolling by so fast on the little sidebar that I couldn't keep track before. I did want to start with a few updates of various random things. First of all, I hope you have all seen that we've scheduled the first screening for Science Friction. It's nowhere near done, obviously. The screening is in October, and right now we're still in the early stages of editing. It's a lot of footage to go through. A great question would be how many hours of footage? I have no idea, but it's a lot. And they're all transcribed now, so it's a matter of just us going through the transcriptions and looking for a story to assemble from all of that, and then we do the editing to match that. So anyway, it's going to be done by October, and we've scheduled the first screening is going to be the day, the last day of SciCon, the Committee for Skeptical Inquiries conference in Las Vegas. That ends on Sunday morning. As soon as lunch is over, the Science Friction screening begins at the same place. That's where probably the largest proportion of donors to Science Friction are going to be. So it's the logical place to have the screening. In case you have no idea what I'm talking about, Science Friction is our current documentary film project. It's an interview film about scientists who went on these TV shows, Ancient Aliens, Shark Week, et cetera, and were misquoted, were edited out of context. Some unscrupulous producers and directors will edit scientists' comments to make it sound like they said the opposite of what they were saying, to make it sound like, yeah, science thinks aliens probably did build the pyramids. This happens more often than you would ever dare to suspect, and so this film is going to be an awesome expose of that. And we are hoping and expecting and working to get a commercial release of the film after it's done. So that's going to be lots of fun. October 20th, if you want to sign up and go to the screening, it is a separate from SciCon. So you have to RSVP separately, and you can do that just on sciencefriction.tv, which is the website for the movie, obviously. And there's a link right there to get to the RSVP screen for that. So anyway, that's that. Second bit of news since last time, the Skeptoid merchandise store is finally reopened. I had one back in the early days, but was just so busy, never got around to recreating it. The shirt I'm wearing is one of the shirts that you can get. This is the shirt with the Skeptoid podcast logo. Is it backwards for you? Looking at my screen, it's backwards, but I have no idea for you whether it's showing you mirror image or front ways. Anyway, this is the other design. This is the company logo. Philip says, looks good. Mick Twigification says, nope, it's normal. Thank you, guys. So people often say, why does Skeptoid have two logos? Well, we don't. This is the company logo, Skeptoid Media. This is what you'll see on all of our films and everything. And then just for the podcast has its own cover art, which is this one. So anyway, these we got a whole bunch of shirts. They come in. There's a third design also that I didn't happen to grab one of. They come in 3 different colors: long sleeve, short sleeve. They're all super top quality, 100% cotton, heavyweight T-shirts. So it's good stuff. You can get that at skeptoid.com. Just go to store. There's a big link right at the top, and that'll take you right into it. Hello, Sean. Thank you for joining. Call me Josh. McTwigification. Josh. Hello, Josh. Thank you for that. And also the books. You can get autographed books from all 6 Skeptoid books are there in the store as well. So, Eleanor, long sleeves. Yes, long sleeves, short sleeves, navy blue, gray, black, all sorts of different options there. Next thing I want to talk about is I just want to remind everyone about what premium membership benefits there are for those of you who are awesome enough to support the show financially. Um, it's become clear after many, many years of interacting with supporters that people don't support Skeptoid because they want to get something back in return. They want to get, a widget or a shirt or a mug or something like that. People support the show because they want it to be available to other people who need it. That's what tends to be the case. So, nevertheless, we do appreciate your support. You are what makes it possible for us to exist, and so we do want to offer as many benefits to you as we can. So, one thing, the most obvious, is premium access to the show. You get access to the premium feed, which has more than 11 times as many episodes in it. Sounds better to say more than 10 times, so I usually say that. Um, Instead of just 50. The free public feed has 1 year of shows, the last 50 shows in there, and that's more than enough for most people. But they've all got sponsored messages in them, so you have to listen to ads and sponsored messages and that sort of thing. And there's also a little extra intro on the show, so extra minutes of stuff. And in this day and age, people aren't patient enough to sit through extra minutes of anything. So the premium version of the show has all of that stripped out, and of course, you get the entire history of the show. Um, One of these days, I would love to have an app built, a dedicated Skeptoid podcast app, which I have partially specced out, and I've looked at it, and it's just going to be way too much money to get it done properly and maintained and all of that stuff. Uh, and there's really would never be a good business argument for it. Maybe one day someone will volunteer to step up and do that for us as like a super, super nice favor, but it doesn't look like it's something we're going to be able to devote the company's limited resources to in the foreseeable future. So anyway, premium version of the show. That's benefit number one. Benefit number two is a USB drive. I totally should have had one sitting here. Oh, I do. Yay, little Skeptoid USB drive. There it is. It's upside down. There it is. So it's a super fast, really high quality USB 3 drive. You can see the blue indicating it's USB 3 and not USB 2. It's only 16 gigs, which is not enormous, but it's big enough for most people's daily needs. And it does come preloaded with all of the content we've ever produced. All the podcasts, obviously, all the video shows, all of the documentary films. Um, what am I missing? All the musical stuff, although most people hate that. But it's all on there anyway. 16 gigs worth, and as soon as we get the next film on there, then we'll have to upgrade to a 32. Next, what's the next membership goodie? To get the USB drive, you just log into the members portal on skeptoid.com. There's a big obvious button at the top right, members portal. If you haven't been there, most of you probably have. And once you're in the members portal, there's a place where you can order the USB drive. You have to put in your shipping address and all that stuff. And lots of other things that you can do in the portal. Anyway, let's see. Books. Yes, Eleanor, books are on the store as well. Just come to skeptoid.com and click on store. You can also get there from skeptoid.org if you happen to be looking at the nonprofit company site instead. Paul, thank you. The USB drive works great. It's funny because trying to get USB drives made. Any word on how the shirt sizes run? Jeff, those are they are top quality Gildan Ultra Cotton. I don't know if you can see that label or not. This is like one of the most popular commercial heavyweight cotton shirt brands. They should fit according to the size. If you have other T-shirts, probably one of them is this same brand. Check out the labels. Anyway, they should fit. Right on. And if it doesn't, send it back. Happy to replace it. Eleanor, any books on the USB drive is what I meant. No, actually, that's a good idea. I have ebooks made of, I think, the last two of the Skeptoid books. Making ebooks is non-trivial. It takes someone to go through and make all the links work and everything like that. Um, just a PDF is lame. And of course, Conspiracies Declassified is not on the drive because that's owned by Simon and Schuster. We don't have rights to give that out for free. Um, let's see. Oh, shout outs. The other premium member benefit you can get into the members portal is shout outs. Shout outs on the podcast. I've just been doing this for about the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 months or so. At the end of the show, I usually give a shout out to 4 or 5 different recent um, premium members. To get a shout out, you go into a place in the members portal, you click on shout outs and stories, and you can type in whatever you want to be shouted out as. And people are lately putting in all kinds of funny things that's hard for me to pronounce, and like they're putting one over on me. Hey, that's fine. I'm here ready to be used and abused by you. So oh, good. I'm glad to see you appreciate the shout outs. McKenna CPEC, you put yours in phonetically. I saw that. I don't think that one's been recorded yet. I'm not sure. It's coming up because I saw it. The system automatically grabs the next group of them and puts them into the script for me. I hope I'm pronouncing McKenna CPEC correctly. I would be shocked if there's a way to even mispronounce that. Of course, CPEC, I'm an old Jeep guy, so I know Dick CPEC tires. Stories also. Member stories. If you have an interesting thing to say about why you support Skeptoid, and for most people, this is something like they had a friend or family member who was into some weird thing, and Skeptoid really helped them get out of that, something like that. We really appreciate it if you would tell us that story. There's a place where you can type it in. There's also an option for you to record it as a voice memo on your phone, just blah, 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 record it using the voice memo function and then email it. And that goes, I've done only a few of these so far. That goes at the beginning of the show, in the pre-roll of a show. When we don't have another pre-roll that's already been used by something else, we'll insert one of these. Those are super valuable because listeners to the free show hear those and they go, oh, here's a real person telling me why they think this content is important enough that they want to support it. Not only does that encourage other people to become premium members, but more importantly, it encourages them to share the show with other people and say, hey, wow, this is actually good stuff that real people in the real world actually truly appreciate. So that's a useful thing. We also have a place where you can make a YouTube video. If you type a member story into the little members portal there, it also tells you, hey, open up your phone or whatever, use the YouTube app and just record just a little, 30-second, 1-minute video of you telling the story. We use that also. Send us the YouTube link. We can put into the system. That goes into certain places. It's not apparent. It's not on the website yet, but it will be. And there's other things that we do. We're always applying for grants and stuff like this, and we're making pitches and presentation to potential large donors. That's Linda's job, Linda Orsoletto, our special gifts officer. That's pretty much what she does all the time. So anytime we've got info like that from premium listeners, it's super helpful for us. Okay, Linda, in fact, is reminding me on text right now. Back to science friction, we are still short on our budget. We are going to get through the film, but the more budget we have, the slicker and glossier it's going to be. And slick and glossy, why it may not sound like it has immediate value, it actually has huge value, because when you want to put a film on Netflix or Amazon Prime, all of these guys have really strict requirements, not just technical requirements, but quality control requirements. If you were to make a video of yourself on your phone and send it in and say, hey, I can get this on Netflix, they're going to kick it right back. In fact, you can't even apply to Netflix directly unless you're a studio. You have to go through these third-party companies that do this, and they put the film through pretty rigorous quality control, and they flag freaking everything. So all of that stuff is what takes a disproportionate amount of time. And that's the kind of stuff where we're currently forcing to skimp on. It's this fine detailed post-production stuff after the film's all edited and it looks like it's done to you and me, but it doesn't look like it's done to Amazon Prime. So getting more budget into the film is always going to be something that we would really love to get to. Um, Eleanor, helpful for winning prizes too. Yeah, film festivals don't necessarily have the same sort of technical requirements that Netflix, Amazon Prime do, but certainly you want it to look good. We obviously will be entering it into film festivals, hoping to win prizes and all of that fun stuff. Okay, one new little thing here. This is just a silly little thing. Is this company called Cameo was kind of hounding me for like 6 months. Say, hey, you can use our little phone app to send video shout outs to people who want to pay for them. So you go in and you pay like, I don't know, 10, 15 bucks, something like that. And then it sends me an email and says, hey, it's Tim's birthday. And I get out my phone and go, hi, Tim, it's Brian from Skeptoid. Happy birthday. And then it sends it to Tim. So that's kind of a fun thing. I did finally sign up with them. The app is called Cameo. If you want to do that, if you, I got one like within 5 seconds of turning the account on, which was only a few days ago, and then I didn't get one since. So I'm not sure how or why that happened. Anyway, Cameo, kind of fun, goofy little thing. So let me get to some of your questions now. Please do if you want to. If you want to, don't email it. See how it's. I guess if you have a question, just go ahead and type it in here. But Paul sent in a couple of questions via email in response to the email invitation that I sent out to everyone. Question from Paul, and I need a swig of Dr. Pepper here. The fuel on which Skeptoid runs. Is it difficult to find inspiration for new episodes? Whenever I stumble across a claim on History Channel, the internet, etc., whether it's Lights Over Phoenix, Russian Bigfoot, Suicide Dog Bridges, etc., I see that you've already examined it. I want to send you suggestions for new episodes, but I can't find anything. Well, let me assure you, there is no danger of ever running out of topics. Let me tell you exactly how many I've got in my working folder right now. Let's see, 94. This was recently purged. I went through it and scraped it down to just the ones that I know I'm going to get to. Ones like wind turbines and birds. Never done that. Dog food myths. Whether California is going to slide into the ocean as a result of an earthquake. Acoustic levitation, repressed memories, gut bacteria, and obesity. It goes on and on. There's all of these kind of basic ideas that I've still never done shows on. And this is 94. That's 2 years worth right there. So no danger of running out of episodes. And please always do send me your suggestions. Yes, I probably have covered it before, but that's fine. I know that. So just go ahead and email them to brian@skeptoid.com or put them on any kind of social media. I'm generally checking social media throughout most days. McKenna says, I happen to have contributed to the Wikipedia entry on wind turbines and birds. Now, was that a result of the Guerrilla Skeptics on Wikipedia with Susan Gerbic? In fact, there's Susan Gerbic right now. Hurry up and get to California sliding into the ocean. Don't worry, Susan. I think you're safe. Okay, let's go to the next question here. Do you perceive a recent increase in deliberate illogical thinking, specifically since the 2000 election and Trump's predilection for abject lying? Can't avoid that, comes up in every conversation these days. Are we losing the logical debate to pure emotion and support bias? Does the truth even matter anymore? So I say this a lot because this is a fairly common question that I get is are things worse now? Does the internet make things worse? Does the era of fake news and misinformation? And I am an outlier in that I say no. Uh, Many of my colleagues will disagree with me. I say no. I don't think we're any worse off. And if you look at, we read the first sentence of Paul's questions again. Do you perceive a recent increase in deliberate illogical thinking? Let me ask each one of you right now, what do you deliberately believe that's illogical or untrue? Nothing. Um, None of us have beliefs that we know to be untrue. That's the definition of a belief. Susan says we're way better off with the internet. Obviously, having a resource like Wikipedia and people like Susan's team always improving it and making it better, obviously that helps. Um, I'm also an outlier in that I don't agree with that either. I don't think the internet makes things better or worse. I think it's a rising tide that raises all boats equally. I think just as easily as it is to spread misinformation, it's just as easy to spread information. I don't think people change that much over the decades and over the centuries. I think people are people, always have been, always will be, and there's always going to be this predilection toward irrational, anecdotal thinking. I don't think that I don't observe that that there's a lot of change in that over time. Frequently, when I'm doing an episode on an old mystery, I'm reading newspaper articles from 150 years ago, things like that, and it's incredible that it's the same old stories. Names and places are different, but we see the same things, the same kind of sensationalized reporting, the same sort of kind of proportion of freaky sounding information and normal sounding information. And another great thing, let's see if I can see it on my bookshelf over there, is Martin Gardner's book, and I'm trying to remember what it's called. Someone please type in the chat. What is Martin Gardner's famous book called? Because I'm spacing, and stupidly, there's like a 10-second delay in what I see in the chat here. Um, Fads and Fallacies. Thank you. Martin Gardner, Fads and Fallacies. And I guess the title evolved a little bit. If you do not own this book, buy it. And here's the fascinating thing about it. You'll pick it up, you'll read through the chapters, and you go, yep, I'm very familiar with this stuff already. Yep, these are exactly the same kind of things I know. And then you turn to the front page and you look at the copyright, and I believe it's 1949, 70 years ago. 70 years ago, we had the same kind of crap in the news. That's eye-opening. Um, it blew my mind. Oh God! And now I see Fads and Fallacies sitting right there, literally on the top of my stack. It blew my mind when I first noticed the date on that. So no, I don't believe we're either losing or winning the logical debate to pure emotion and support bias. To answer Paul's question, let's see. I've seen another couple questions here go by here. Do, 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 do. Do I think people have become more stubborn in changing their minds? No, I think I've just answered that. I think our thought processes are pretty much the same that they've always been. I really don't believe that people change that much. Um, Thank you for letting us know that you're combing your hair right now, Susan. Fun question. The rational explanation for the invisible weapon attack on the American embassy. Yeah, I mean, this I did an episode on this. I was reluctant to do the episode because the news was still only a month or two old. This is when they reported that the Cuban embassy, the American embassy in Havana, Cuba, was under a sonic weapon attack. And here we had all of these people reporting incredibly diverse symptoms that clearly did not apply to a single cause. And someone decided that it was a sonic weapon attack. There's no such thing as a sonic weapon attack, or at least a silent one. And it's kind of been reported that way ever since. Uh, a Cuban science body, and granted that that would be, if this was indeed a Cuban attack, a Cuban science body would be the last place you would want to go for information on it. Nevertheless, the Cuban science body who investigated reported quite quickly that this seems to be a case of mass hysteria. And that's something that's come up in quite a few Skeptoid episodes. One that I think of right away was the toxic lady. I was living in Southern California when they brought this woman into an emergency room in San Bernardino, I think. And I forget what her condition was, a heart attack, I don't know. They did an incision, cut her open, and fumes came out that knocked out everyone in the operating room. And then the kind of it grew to urban legend proportions where the military came in, and it was like the scene in E.T. where they put up the plastic sheeting and everything. None of that happened. In fact, really, none of the story at all happened. Someone did feel ill after treating this woman, and the story grew from there. And I guess the woman had been, I think she had some kind of cancer. This is a long time ago, so I'm just going from memory here. And there was some alternative therapy that was a smelly lotion that you put on yourself to treat your cancer. And this woman had been doing that. And when they got her into the operating room, it smelled really, really bad, really, really weird. And the story just grew from there. And it was a case of mass hysteria. Mass hysteria doesn't mean thousands of people running around going, bah! That's not in hysterics. That's not what it means. It just means it's a it's a it's a sensational term for basically one way that misinformation spreads among people who have a shared experience. Um, it kind of goes with the bandwagon effect. We see this in a lot of the UFO cases where there's hundreds of witnesses, supposedly. Hundreds of people didn't see it, although hundreds of people reported seeing it. It's just another one of these things where you've heard something, you expect that it's true, so anything you can remember that possibly might slot into that kind of becomes part of the experience in your belief. So the sonic attack in Cuba has essentially every element of that. It fits perfectly with it. And there still being no such thing as a sonic weapon. I think the book is pretty much closed on that one. Let's see. Scrolling back through the questions here. Hurry up and get to California slide. Oh, I already saw that. Okay, so Susan, was it black salve that the lady put on her? I don't think so. No, it was some herbal thing. I don't remember what it was. If you go to Skeptoid.com and search for toxic lady, you'll find out. What is your favorite local myth or story? Well, of course, now it's obvious since I've moved to Oregon, it's got to be Bigfoot. There's a local Bigfoot investigation group here. All very nice people. They had a pub night, and my wife and I went. And the pub night consisted of everyone going around and telling their story. No one reported ever having seen a Bigfoot, but all of the anecdotal evidence that they reported, there was no question in any of their minds that this was absolutely Bigfoot. Whether this was they were on a hike and they saw a tree branch that was broken, or uh, they hear a noise. They're big on the thumping and knocking on logs and tree trunks. So a noise in the distance is always a Bigfoot. And there's some people in the group, they post pictures of footprints, and many of these are fairly sad examples of blob squatches. It's an image that's clearly of nothing, but they prefer to think that it's Bigfoot, so in their mind it's a Bigfoot. And sometimes they'll draw the little outline around it, and it's a little bit sad. Okay, question here. I do have a question. First, thank you for the podcast number 463 in 2015 on transgender factor fiction. That was one in a series of alternate voices. Yes, it was. That was when I had guest hosts on the show. That was hosted by Allison Hudson. I do enjoy hearing your reassuring voice in the podcast, but I wonder what the background is about those other voices, why you tried them, and why you quit. Well, of course, that was during the most of a year when I spent time away from Skeptoid, which is no secret. It's been on my Wikipedia page for over a decade. That's when I had this tremendously long and expensive lawsuit with eBay stemming from a project done by my consulting company back in the early 2000s, 2002, 2003. And eventually the only way to settle that was to plead guilty to some ridiculous criminal charges. There was about a half dozen companies that eBay did this with, and basically to settle it, one person from each one of these companies had to plead guilty to wire fraud, which by the time 2014 came around was it was clearly the cheapest and fastest way to simply bring an end to this whole nightmare. It had lasted over 7.5 years by that point. We'd lost our house, we lost all of our savings. So that was the way to make it go away. And that's what happened. And once I got back in the seat, show picked up as normal. But I was able to pre-record how many, 10 or 15 episodes, and I think there was about 8 months that I was actually away. So um, the pre-recorded ones got interspersed, and then I had half a dozen guest hosts do all the fill-in. Worked great. We never missed a deadline. Um, my wife Lisa became the executive director of the nonprofit during that time. The board of directors kept things totally above board and legit and straight, and I'm happy to report that it kind of went through without a hiccup. But so glad that's behind me. um, I think we're actually out of questions. If I missed a question, then someone please retype it. But that's um, that's where we are. So I guess any chance of getting Rife machines, Royal Raymond Rife on the list? Uh, Specific case of despicable vulture scumbags in my pet gadget quackery. I have no idea what that is. I'd be happy to look that up, obviously. However, I will make a point that I do not do episodes about living individuals or specific companies by name for liability reasons. Too many of my colleagues get sued, uh, f- and it's a meritless lawsuit. Nevertheless, a meritless lawsuit costs just as much time, money, energy, life as a merited one. So I don't go there. There's too many other stories that don't have that kind of risk associated with them. So if it's a particular commercial product or a particular person by name, then um, I'm probably not going to do a show on it. How do I get that to go away? Time travel, especially the experiment Stephen Hawking, it's not Hawkins, it's Hawking, did by sending out an invite. That's a pet peeve of mine. Anytime you see a wooist, as I call them, mention Stephen Hawking's name, they always get it wrong. It's either Hawken, Hawkins, or Hawkings. They never get Hawking. Did by sending out an invite to a party after the party ended. No, I actually have no idea what you're talking about there, Susan, but that sounds interesting. I'd be happy to look into that. Maybe we can talk about that on the next one of these chats. Myths of yesteryear, I mentioned Mormon mythology. Let's see, I've done 2 episodes on specific um, Mormon history versus pseudo history. As a rule, I do not go into religious beliefs at all. And again, although many of you might like it if I did that, this is a nonprofit, it's an educational nonprofit. Our stuff is designed to go into classrooms. If we were to become an atheist show or an anti-religion show or anything like that, I guarantee you we would not be going into classrooms and we would be getting kicked out of the ones we were in. So religion and politics are things I don't touch. However, specific testable claims of history versus pseudo history are fair game. So the 2 episodes of Mormon mythology that we did were the true origin of the Book of Abraham, and then kind of a general one about their archaeological claims in Mesoamerica. Those were quite a while ago, but those were quite fun, and they were well received. And I'm happy to say they were well received by Mormon listeners too. That's how I can really tell if I do a good job on an episode, if I get positive feedback from the people who are, most under the microscope. And I'm happy to say I get that more often than not. Are there any mysteries or conspiracies that you were inclined to believe or inclined to be more open to believe before researching? Gosh, yes. All the time. Um, Pretty much every week, in fact. Um, and of course, as soon as you put me on the spot, I can't think of a single example. But yes. How's that? Short answer? Yes. All the time. I'm getting this message is held for review, and I don't know how to make that appear. Oh well. Okay. Anyway, thank you, Susan. There's a link that I'll put that in the notes for the next premium chat here. Let me go to, if we have no more questions, but feel free to send them in, type them in here really quick. Otherwise, I'm just going to, we've got a lot more people now than we had when we first started. So I'll just kind of do a quick rehash of the new things that we talked about at the top of the show, which is the screening for Science Friction, October 20th, Las Vegas, Nevada, right after the end of SciCon. You can get your spot for that at sciencefriction.tv, the website for the film. And director Emery and I will both be there to do a Q&A and talk about the film after the showing. T-shirts. We've got the T-shirt that I'm wearing. We've got the Skeptoid Media logo T-shirt. We've got another design, all available at the newly revamped and available Skeptoid store. You can also get the books at the store. And there's a big link for store right at the top of skeptoid.com. Please check that out. And if you have a shirt, if anyone has a shirt, if you've already got one, because I know a bunch of people have, please post your pictures to social media wearing it. Represent, and then I'll retweet them and we can get other people saying, hey, neat, there's a way to support Skeptoid. Premium goodies. If you have not got a USB drive and you are a premium listener, you are entitled to one. These do cost us money, obviously, so if you don't want it, don't get it for no reason. But they're fun to have, and you are entitled to one. And you can get those in the members portal. Just go to skeptoid.com and click on members portal. And that's where you can also request a shout out. You can enter in your member story. You can record that as an audio clip, which gets played in the podcast. And you can record it as a video clip, which we use in our marketing for grant applications and pitches to potential major donors and all that fun stuff. We're still looking for donations to help support the post-production of sciencefriction.tv. The film will be finished, but we can always use more donations to get that bit of final polish on it. Teacher's Toolkit. There's probably not too many premium listeners who are in the Teacher's Toolkit program. Teacher's Toolkit problem. It's not a problem. It's awesome. It's a great program. If you haven't seen it, if you go to skeptoid.com/teachers, can I type that link in here? I think I can. Skeptoid.com, I have to spell it right though, /teachers. If you click on that link, you can watch a short little 3-minute video of the Teacher's Toolkit and how it works. It's an educational media sharing platform that makes it super easy for teachers to build curricula based on Skeptoid podcast episodes and to share it with their classrooms. Okay, tantalize us about upcoming podcast mysteries to be unraveled. I am so caught up these days, which is not good. Historically, I've usually been about a month ahead on the podcast, and I've been caught up for literally ever since we started Science Friction production like 2 years ago. I've been basically caught up, which is terrifying. But I think there's 3 in the can now. The one that comes out this coming Tuesday is the behavioral economics behind the glyphosate terror. Roundup, the popular herbicide, why the opposition to Roundup is based on behavioral economics and not on science. That one's pretty cool. And then the following week is 5G internet, which is so funny because I could basically take the Roundup episode and erase Roundup, type in 5G, and it would be exactly the same episode. But I'm not going to do that. That one's going to be good too. And then there is a listener feedback episode. There's been a tremendous amount of listener feedback in some recent episodes over the past 3-4 months, so I really have to go through that. A lot of really neat new information. Explain behavioral economics. Well, of course, we explain it in the podcast, but economics, the science of economics, is about modeling rational decision making, how we can make rational decisions. And a rational decision in economic terms is defined as one in which one or more members of a group, their situation is improved by their own estimate, and nobody's situation is made worse. So whatever happened there, that was a rational decision because it helped. Behavioral economics, on the other hand, is all about our human weaknesses and the things that we're all susceptible to that force us to make, or that cause us to make, irrational decisions. And one of the features in behavioral economics is something called an information cascade. And an information cascade, by my analysis, is what's largely responsible for the public hatred of Roundup and such things like that. Let's see. A married couple both got the same kind of cancer from it that others got. No, that's not convincing evidence, because there was absolutely no reason to correlate that to the use of Roundup. The Roundup Show, add 5G and sing it. Rollin', 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 listen to your Samsung. No, we're probably not going to do that. No, I'm not going to go through all 94 ideas in the folder. They're coming up. Read anything by Dan Ariely to find out about behavioral economics. One of my favorite guys, Dan Ariely. I got his book, Predictably Irrational, is on my shelf here. He also does great talks. He really just has one talk that he does every time he goes to a conference. He just does the same talk, but it's great. And he does evolve it over time. He's a really entertaining speaker and a fun author too. So I think that's about it. Thank everyone for coming. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Come next time, tell your friends. And please do send me feedback on how we can make these better. Last time we talked about, hey, should we do things like add a guest? Because we could have, like, another window appears and we could have a guest and we could talk to him about stuff. That's an option we could do if we wanted to. We're going to try and do these about every 2 months, we think, and we're trying to alternate them so that they work for US and Europe, and then US and Australia and that region. So because we have a lot of listeners in both. So we're trying to make it a time of day that works somehow for people. So that's it. Thanks again. Keep listening. Thank you very much for your support, most of all. And this will be on live on YouTube, and you can share it and hopefully get more people into the show. So thanks a lot, and goodbye.